Welcome back to the Purpose Podcast. My name is Travis Holton. I'm a man of action. I walk with growth, honor, and faithfulness. I'm a warrior of the kingdom, ignited with purpose from the one most high. So I got my friend Tommy here today. We were actually just working out together. We just got a quick pump in, and now we're about to shoot y'all a podcast. And a little bit about Tommy. We used to work together, and Tommy's just a real man of action, a man of growth. All these words that I say just now could also be used for him. That's just who he is, and he's continues to grow physically, mentally, and spiritually. Like, I feel like every single time we get together, he grows closer to God. That's I think the whole reason behind everything that we do.
Yeah.
I just wanted to pray us in first, and then I'll let you talk a little bit. Dear Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for who you are and what you've done, God. I just pray that the words that we speak today, God, that they're yours, they're not ours. And I pray you're just able to use our words to just ignite somebody else and to bring someone else closer to God. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
All right. You want to talk about who you are, talk about what you're doing now, and just how far you've come.
So, I think my journey with Christ started, honestly, when I got adopted. So I was born in Belarus, moved here when I was 6. Ever since that, my parents have been religious, going to church every Sunday. There's this group that I used to be a part of. It's called Christians on Campus. And I used to do everything with them, all their events. And up until probably end of high school, going into my college years, I was all for doing everything they were doing, going to all the events, meeting with brothers and sisters, going to church. And then kind of after high school is when I kind of fell off. I started doing my own thing, got kicked out of the house. And then for 2 years, I was just on my own. I was doing things for myself. I kind of quit contacting with my parents for those 2 years, and kind of got myself into, just worldly things, bunch of trouble, all this other stuff. And then God started pushing on me. He started pressing on me, started just giving me all these troubles, car accidents, wrecked cars, just relationships falling apart. Anything and everything that possibly could go wrong went wrong in those 2 years, till I finally started to realize, I'm not going to get anywhere with this life. I'm not going to. Mm-hmm. The dark is just too overwhelming right now, and I can't see the light. And then that's when I kind of started coming back in. But the past couple years, it's just been on and off. And this year was kind of a step. I put my foot down with everything. I watched a 6-year relationship walk out the door because of alcohol. And at that point, I was just I'm not doing this anymore. I need to start changing my life, or else these car accidents or these near-death experiences are just going to get a little too real. So that's when I ended up, one of my biggest New Year's resolution was kind of get closer to God and change everything about me, because that's what I needed to do, honestly.
Yeah, that was kind of where I started, I think 2 years ago. Whenever I got saved for the first time, right after that, New Year's rolls around, and I'm like, man, my only true New Year's resolution is to find God's true purpose for me. Yeah. And I think that's where it all started for me, because right after I started praying for that, he's just throwing stuff at me. What do you want to do? Because it's after, in college and after I played sports for so long, it was that was over. It's okay, well, what now? Yeah. I feel like I had no purpose until God repurposed my life and gave me something new, a new vision, not just for me, but for other people. Yeah. And how to help other people and how I can lead people closer to God. And I think that's what the podcast is about. And I feel like that's what life should be all about, in all honesty. Yeah. And I think it's special to have different people in your life they don't have some ulterior motive behind everything. You know what I'm saying? That's what's so great about it is, these guys that I get together with, during the week or at work sometimes, there's an open invite. They don't have to come, and some people still come and work out. They're still able to come on the podcast, and they're able to take time out of their day just to help, not just help me out, but help somebody else out. Yeah. And that's what's so important behind it. And I think feeds into that, like feeding others with your
Yeah.
time, your talent, and your treasures, and that's so good.
I think one of the biggest things I've heard was somebody told, well, basically said that how like our experiences of God are different. My experience is going to be different than your experience, and the only way that we're going to feed each other spiritually is if I stand up or I put myself out there and talk about it, basically talk
Yeah.
about my what I enjoyed from the week or what I enjoyed from the reading that we did that day or something like that. Because I mean, we can't grow as an individual, and human beings aren't meant to be alone. And same thing with God and being in the church. Like, you can't grow as a member of the church by yourself. You're gonna need the brothers and sisters to lift you up when you're having a bad day. I mean, who are you gonna call? Somebody that actually wants to see you succeed. So, yeah, that's one of the biggest things in my life that I need to start doing more, is putting out there what I enjoyed for the week. Because, I mean, somebody's going to take notice of it and actually either grow from it, or the ones that don't want to grow from it are not going to want to be there.
It's like really surrounding yourself with people who also, one, are going where you want to go and are headed in the right direction. And it's like, I don't know if you ever heard like the story of an eagle, right? I don't know why I love this story so much, but every time I hear it, I'm like, man, that's so good. And the thing is, eagle's like the baddest, like most feared bird on the entire planet, right? And there's no other bird on the planet that'll really mess with an eagle except for a crow. And what a crow does is it'll hop on the eagle's back and it'll just sit there and like pester it and peck on its neck and peck on its neck. And what does the eagle do? Eagle just he just sits there and he just takes it. He just takes it and he just takes it until finally he kind of had enough, and he just starts soaring. He just starts going to its highest altitude. And what happens is the eagle knows that the crow can't go that far. So after a certain altitude of how high it goes, the crow just passes out and falls back down because it can't go as high as an eagle. And there's some people, I feel like, in our lives that are holding us down, that are not allowing us to go to the next level. They're just a crow on our back and hopping on. They're always bringing us down. And I feel like whenever you surround yourself with other eagles, everyone's just going to rise to their highest altitude, and you're all going to fly together at the highest altitude you can possibly go. And that's why I like that story so much.
Yeah, I think it's just me personally. I've had really good friends in the past, and watching those people walk out of my life and then slowly realizing that, man, they were dragging me down more than they were actually lifting me up. I mean, we were good friends, really good friends, but at the end of the day, I mean, they weren't growing, and they weren't having me grow in the process of it all. So I think just in life and in the church life as well, you have to be with somebody or a group of people that want to see you succeed, even if they're successful. I mean, the biggest entrepreneurs or the biggest successful people want to see other people succeed. So I think that's just really important in life, honestly.
100%. Yeah, that is definitely very important, to surround yourself with people who not only want you to go to the next level, but they're always constantly growing and trying to be better than they were yesterday.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I wanted to read this because it kind of touched on what we were talking about. So this is talking about Peter whenever he was in prison. And basically what happened was he was in prison for his beliefs and his relationship with God and relationship with Jesus. And it said, the night before Peter was placed on trial, he was asleep, fastened with 2 chains between 2 soldiers. Others stood guard at the prison gate. Suddenly there was a bright light in his cell, and an angel of the Lord stood before Peter. The angel struck him on the side and awakened him and said, "Quick, get up." And the chains fastened. The chains fell off his wrist. Then the angel told him, "Get dressed and put on your sandals." And he did. "Now put on your coat and follow me," the angel ordered. So Peter left his cell following the angel. And pretty much what I wanted to touch on about this, and I think God really painted me this picture this week to talk about this. And Peter was chained down to the ground and had 2 soldiers right beside him holding him down. And God came in, he let God come in, and an angel of the Lord, came in and set him free. Chains just fell off, and he was able to just walk out.
Yeah.
And I think the way I picture it is the devil all has us in the same prison. But the thing is, in every single cell is different.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say like Peter, I feel like, my cell might be like Peter's, where I'm physically chained down, and there's guards watching me, and I have to build myself up physically and mentally in order to get out and escape.
Yeah.
And someone else's prison might be right next to me, and his door might be wide open, but he has money, he has fame, he has success, he has everything in there he could ever want. He has women, he has pills, he has drugs. So why would he ever want to leave?
Yeah.
And I feel like my thinking behind it is like, we all need God in order to escape. But once we get out, we have two options. We can just, we get out, we finally break that curse, and we break the chains, and we break everything, and we're able to just leave. Or we can work with God for that person standing next to us.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get out, God is waiting with complete freedom outside the cell. And right after that, you unlock your full God-given potential. And it's so hard to break out of that cell.
Yeah.
It is, because really the devil knows like what we love and the things that we struggle with. He's able to take it and fill that room with stuff that we love, and fill that room with stuff that just basically feeds our minds. Like he's like, yeah, you like it here? Yeah, here's some more stuff. Like, yeah, here's porn, here's pills, here's drugs, here's women, here's money, here's success. You have all this stuff you don't ever want to leave. And some people, you might try to walk over their cell after you're out of, and they're like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I got everything I could ever want. Why would I ever want to leave this cell?
Yeah.
And it's your job in order to work with God in order to help them escape. And then you go to the next one. Then you go to the next one. You slowly start gathering more people around to help other people escape. And use your experiences and use your trials that you used to get out of that cell to help others. And I feel like whenever God told me that, I was like, man, like, what? That is such a great picture to paint for people, because, it's true.
Yeah.
And I'm reading that Outwitting the Devil book, and I had like a few pages from that I wanted to share, but I think I just want to like kind of summarize it to where the devil really has you in his grasp, and he has you in your prison because he knows those things that you love. And it might not even be because of you. It might be because of your parents, or from you. You just might be born into it.
Yeah.
You might be born into just a life of sin. You might be like just addicted to porn. You might be just love partying. You might just be stuck,
Yeah.
in different ways, shape, or form. It's different for everybody. But in the same way, you're still stuck and you're still chained to the ground. And it's your job in order to grow physically, mentally, and spiritually in order to get out. Yeah. And God knows. God's like Michael Scofield. I don't know if you ever watched Prison Break, but he knows the plan in order to get out. And you have to work with him to figure out what you're struggling with and how the devil has you locked up in that cell. God has the plan already ready for you, and he's the one that just helps you escape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like that. God's the person with the key, basically, to get out of the prison. And again, the devil has you tied down, or has you just throwing everything at you: money, women, everything that you want,
everything you could ever want in life.
And it's a matter of choice. Are you gonna choose to stick in the old ways that you've known all your life, and just be like, this is comfortable, basically. I like being comfortable. This is where I want to stay. Or are you going to be the guy that's like, no, I've had enough of this. I don't see myself growing anymore. Like, my future doesn't look bright if I stick on this path. And you choose to go to God, and God's like, all right, unlock, open the door. Let's go start a new life.
Yeah. Or sometimes it's like, man, what are you doing in here?
Yeah.
The door is wide open. You can leave whenever you want to. I've been sitting here waiting on you outside the cell for so long now.
Yeah.
He's like, but you choose to stay comfortable in that room instead of coming with me and having complete freedom and authority and power over your entire life.
Yeah. There's a verse in the Bible that talks about that, like, God's waiting, just knocking on the door every single day. Hey, I'm here, let me in. And you were just like, no, maybe tomorrow.
That's
he's
funny.
Like, okay. Yeah, so he's like, okay, yeah, I'll come back tomorrow. And then tomorrow, same thing. Hey, I'm here. You wanna talk to me, or can we have a little chat?
It's funny because I had that written down. I'm pretty sure it's probably the same verse you're talking about. It says, Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock on the door and it will be open to you.
Yeah.
So basically, if you seek God and you look out for God, He's obviously going to open that door, and He's going to open that cell door in order for you to walk out and escape. But you have to be willing to knock first and seek God, and then you will find the key. Or maybe you're locked in and you're searching for that key the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
Yeah, it's very powerful. I think that's one of the things that I kind of look to all the time, especially now, because too many times I've been locked in the prison, and then I'll ask God to get me out, and He gets me out, and then I just walk straight back in after. I think that's one of the biggest problems I've had is where we ask God for help on our hardest and toughest times. Like you get into a car accident, your parents are dying or something like that. We turn to God because He's always there, regardless of the situation. Once you accept God in your life, He's there, whether you want Him or not. And then you have to choose to stick with it, and more times than enough we'll be there for the hard times. But the good times, when everything's going good, not once do we ever think about God or thank God for where we're at.
I think this is something I wanted to touch on, and I think this kind of sums up what a relationship with God is. So, say about, I don't even know, 3 or 4 years ago, and I got in a wreck.
Yeah.
Right? So deer ran out in the road. We were down a dirt road, and I hit the deer, grazed the deer, and lost control. And I rolled my truck like 3-4 times.
Yeah.
And in that moment, right afterwards, you get out, and you're just like thinking, I don't want to call my dad. I'm okay, but in the same moment, I don't want to tell him what just happened to my truck.
Yeah.
And then our relationship with God is like calling my father and being like, Dad, this is what just happened. I just did this. I just rolled my truck. I just flipped. What do I do now?
Yeah.
It's like feeding into that. Because it's like instead of, being worried and scared and only really talking to God whenever I have to, I talk to God whenever everything. I bring Him all my problems, and then He's able to find a solution and help me solve them.
Yeah.
I think that's what the difference is.
Yeah, I think as a parent, you always want your child, regardless of the situation, to be comfortable to come to you and talk to you. I've gotten into 3 car accidents. Every single time our car was totaled, and the hardest thing to do was call my parents and be like, hey, this is what's going on, this is what happened. And it's the same thing with God. The hardest thing for me especially is I hate asking for people for help. If something's going on in my life, the last thing I want to do is burden somebody else to hey, I need help, or hey, can I talk? Because I feel like my problems aren't their problems, and they don't need to hear about my problems. But at the end of the day, we all have problems. And half the time, if somebody wants to come talk to me about it, cool. I will be that listening ear that somebody needs. And I hope that person will be the same thing for me if anything comes up.
Yeah, 100%.
And God's just like that. God's always there. He's always listening to us regardless. And He knows our situation. He knows what we're going to get ourselves into and what we're doing currently. So, the devil's going to do whatever he can to get us off course. And we just have to be strong enough to come to God whenever that happens. Ever since I started getting closer to God, I've watched myself. My mentality has changed a lot. I've used to have bad days at work because I would let my mind start running. The devil puts thoughts in my mind, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to go with it. But now it's to the point where every time I have the smallest problems happen, I come to God. And I'd be like, hey, so I want to come to you. I'm having this problem. The devil's putting me in this situation. And I keep telling myself, God's the ultimate creator. He's the most powerful. Anything that is going on in my life is because He's letting it. And it's ultimately to get me closer to Him. And, at the end of the day, I realize that
to test you and build you into someone that
and
now knows how to get that problem so you can use, your situation and the things that you use to get through that problem for somebody else and in somebody else's life to help them get over it.
Yeah, so it's definitely helped a lot. And I haven't had a bad day since, honestly, because it's a mentality thing. And if you let it and stay in there and you let the devil just take control, then you're always going to have a bad day at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right, I wanted to read this to you as well, and we can talk a little bit about it. So it says, this is in James 4 through, we'll say 1 through 10. It says, what causes the quarrels and fights among you? Don't they come from the evil desires at war within you? You want what you don't have, so you scheme and kill to get it. You are jealous of what others have, but you can't get it, so you fight and wage war to take it away from them, yet you don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it. And even when you ask, you don't get it because your motives are all wrong. You want only what will give you pleasure. You adulterers, don't you realize that a friendship with the world makes you an enemy of God? I say it again, if you want to be a friend of the world, you make yourself an enemy of God. Do you think the scriptures have no meaning? They say that God is passionate, that the Spirit He has placed within us should be faithful to Him, and He gives grace generously. As the scriptures say, God opposes the proud and gives grace to the humble. So humble yourself before God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come close to God, and God will come close to you. Wash your hands, you sinners. Purify your hearts, for your loyalty is divided between God and the world. Let there be tears for what you have done. Let there be sorrows and deep grief. Let there be sadness instead of laughter, and gloom instead of joy. Humble yourself before the Lord, and He will lift you up in honor.
Wow.
I think that's just so good. Talking about like the ways of this world, like you can fall victim to the world and always be stuck in that same situation and always be locked in that cell.
Yeah.
Or you can choose to be with God and be outside living in freedom. And then once you're outside, what do you do from there?
Mm-hmm.
Do you just go live your life and you just go do you? God's just going to let you go. Like, all right, you're out. You have freedom whenever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You have a relationship with me, that's fine. But, I think the more important thing to do is to, all right, I'm out of this cell. Let me go help this person next to me get out. Let me use what I've been gifted with and blessed with my time, my talents, and my treasures to go get this person that's locked up next to me out.
Yeah.
Maybe he can't find the key. Maybe you have the key.
Mm-hmm.
You have, the key in your mind to help him escape that prison.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted to touch on where's 14 at. It says, right after this, it says, how do you know what your life will be like tomorrow? Your life is like a mist. It's here for a little while, then it's gone.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it's God's literally telling you, I have this right here, so like Tommy, it doesn't matter what you do in life, like that's your life. I don't even know if they can see that on camera, but like just letting you know, like God says, that little mist right there, it appears for a little while and it's gone. That's what your life is like. Doesn't matter what failures you have, doesn't matter what you do, how great of a person you are, how bad of a person you are, that's your life. Yeah. It's just a mist. You're here for a little while and then it's gone. And what are you going to do with your time that you've been blessed with, whether it's very long or very short? What are you going to do? And I think what God's called us to talk about today is how to make the most out of the mist, how to make the most of the little time that we have here on earth, whether it's, a day, an hour, if it's, 50 years, 60 years, 100 years, what are we going to do with the time that we have to bless others? And I think that's what it's all about, is showing people love and compassion and helping people reach their true potential, their true God-given potential. And I believe that's what God has called us to do in life. Mm-hmm. And even though our life is such a short mist, that's what we should do while we're here.
I think there was a quote I heard. It said, basically on a headstone, whenever you die on a headstone, it's got the year you were born and the year that you died. And it's got that dash in between. That's all people, if nobody knows you and they come to your gravestone and see that, that's all they're going to know you by, is what's written on there and the year you were born and the year you died. That little dash in between is what what we have to take control and what we have to prove, and basically help others build up. Are they going to know you by the year you were born and by the year you were dead, or are they going to realize that dash in between and how much lives you've affected, how many people you've changed yourself and helped get out of that prison by the devil and get out of the chains by the devil? I mean, it's honestly, I think it's a better life watching other people grow because of what you've done, and it just makes you feel that much more accomplished. I think there was another quote I heard, something about basically like the worst thing you can do is be selfish. Like the worst thing I can do for myself is build myself up because I want to.
Cool. Build my kingdom.
Yeah.
Some people spend their entire lives building their kingdom.
Yeah.
You know, they get money, they get fame, they get success, they get, you know, all these earthly things that like the earth tells you what success is.
Yeah.
And that's what other people will look up to. Like, yeah, dude, I want that. But they're probably struggling too because they spent their entire life building their kingdom and not building God's kingdom.
Yeah.
And me and my fiance came up with this the other day out of nowhere. We like talked about like whenever you first get into heaven, what's it look like?
Yeah.
And we just started thinking. I was like, you know, it'd be really cool. I was like, if you get up there and you meet God, and there's some people that you know that you brought to God.
Yeah.
And it's like you get up there and there's this ocean of people waiting. You know, like God shakes your hand, like, you know, well done, good and faithful servant. And all the other people are like, yeah, like all the other people that you saved and all the other people that you brought close to God that are up there in that kingdom because of you, they're all up there cheering, like, because, you know, because God's son's home. You know, like, well, I love that, the well done, good and faithful servant. Like that, I think whenever you get to heaven, that's what, if you did everything right, that's what he has to say for you.
Yeah, there was somebody said last week to it was in church. They were saying that once we accept God in our life, we have God by our side 100%. Once, like, if you could do nothing but just live according to how the Bible is and not do anything else, I mean, we've already made our way into heaven at that point. And once we get into heaven, there's God. God's on the throne judging us. Hey, this is what you've done, what you've done, what you've done. And then Jesus, his son, is right there by our side as our lawyer. And like, hey, but this is what he's done. This is the amount of people he's changed. These are the people's lives that have changed because of him. And all this other stuff. And I think that is really
good.
Yeah.
And what you were saying about the graveyard, I think I've heard this before, but it's like the graveyard is the wealthiest place on the planet.
Yeah. Because
there's so many dreams and desires, and there was so much more to be done.
Yeah.
There was so many more people that could be influenced. There were so many more, you know, inventions that could be made, but they didn't level up and get better. They didn't have God. They didn't, you know, or they might have had God, but they might not have had a true relationship with God.
Yeah.
So that is the wealthiest place on the planet because so much more could have been, so many dreams died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think David Goggins was talking about it. I heard, talking about himself. He's like, if I was to go to, before he started this whole transformation with him, he's like, if I was to go to heaven at that time and God sat me down and he put this poster board in front of me and he's like, this,
I
all
said
this
this
potential.
like last week on the podcast, something similar.
Yeah, and he's like...
And it's like, you get up to heaven and God lays out this big list in front of you and it has your name at the top and it's like Travis Holton, bodybuilder, man of influence, disciple, influence of many, like, you know what I'm saying, something like that. And it's like, I get up there and I'm a drug addict, I'm an alcoholic, I never influenced anybody but myself. I spent my entire life on earth building my kingdom. You know, it's like, God, what is this?
I think you're talking about someone else.
Yeah, I think you're talking about someone else. Like, that's not me at all. He's like, but that's what you were called to be and that's what you were supposed to be.
Yeah.
But you choose to build your own kingdom and not have me by your side and build my kingdom with me.
Yeah, that's really, I think that's more powerful than anything else. But it's like, I mean, you're on your deathbed and there's all these versions of you just standing around and be like, I mean, this is what you could have done. This is the potential you could have had, but you chose to not do it because you want it to be for yourself and you want it to be selfish. And I mean, now we have to die with you, and the world and everybody else is never going to know the real Travis Holton or the real Tommy Howell. Like, just a scary thought, honestly, that we are here on this earth for some reason, and it's our job to figure out what it is and help other people in the process to figure theirs out too.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, God's probably the biggest influence that you could have in your life, because He's really going to show you your potential and what you're really capable of, honestly.
And show you your true purpose.
Yeah. So.
And based on what you're saying, I feel like I've heard this before, it's like whenever you light yourself on fire,
Yeah.
people will come from miles and miles to watch you burn. So whenever you light yourself on fire with like the Holy Spirit, you light yourself on fire, people will come to watch you, and people will come to like, man, like what is he doing? How did he get there?
Yeah.
And if you show them what to do and how to get there, it's just going to influence so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know, because once you influence one person, they might take your story and go share it with somebody else. And then that person might be like, oh my God, I heard this. That's how I think everything grows. And I came up with this. It's like, I didn't come here. I'm not starting this podcast or doing these different things to hide in a crowd like I used to.
Yeah.
Like I used to be that person to hide in a crowd, and I would never say anything I was always that outcast in a big group. And I didn't come here to hide in a crowd anymore. I came here to have a voice and to be a man of influence and to show my relationship with God and what it looks like and how far I've come since I was that person a long time ago.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Talking about that. Yeah, no. I mean, back when I was really with the church and everything, I mean, I had no problem. I had no hesitation going up to people and talking to them and all this other stuff. It wasn't until I fell off is when I started kind of like my introverted side fully came out. And now, I mean, it's trying to talk to somebody random that I don't even know about God, especially. I mean, just thinking about it gave me anxiety and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And I mean, it shouldn't be like that. Like,
No.
This world has suppressed God so much that it's gotten to the point where, I mean, people are so scared to talk about it because they want to know what other people are thinking.
And it's even in the media. Have you seen, like, I think it's CJ Stroud. I've seen a couple interviews where every single interview he talks about God first. He's like, oh, God's my... First, that's the first person I want to thank. I want to thank Jesus Christ. And that's like the first thing he says in every single podcast. And what does the news do and social media do? They edit that part out.
Yeah. I mean, because the whole media thing is about views, and obviously the devil is trying to stop anything about God to go like globally or media-wise. So, I mean, he uses this media platforms to take God out of the equation, but it's the smaller platforms like this and individuals that do their own interviews and stuff like that really goes on. So yeah, it's really interesting to see how these media just cuts out anything about God from anybody, honestly. So
yeah, it's absolutely wild.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's only getting worse at this point, but I feel as though I've noticed more and more people are starting to, I don't know if it's just the people I surround myself with now, but I mean, it's a lot more easier to talk about God in public places now than it was a year ago when, I mean, majority of my friends were just worldly friends, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So it all, like, who you surround yourself with is probably the biggest
influence in your life, really. Yeah. And I don't know why that is. I was one of those natural introverts, growing up. I feel like I could go through an entire school day and I could say less than 10 words.
Yeah.
I could literally wake up in the morning, go to the gym, go to school, go to football practice or baseball practice or whatever it was, and I could say 10 words the entire day, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's because I had to. I got called out in class or something. I had to talk. That's just how I was. And now God's really gave me a voice, told me really what to say sometimes.
Yeah.
And once you have a relationship with God, you don't even have to think. It's God will give you words to say sometimes. You'll be saying stuff and you're like, oh my God, where'd that come from? Or you'll be thinking of something, or I came up with that picture about the prison and the cell, and I'm like, that didn't come from me.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that's so good because God's once you have a relationship with God, and it's like a spiritual muscle. You have to work every single day. It's just like working out.
Yeah.
Like you build yourself up physically, but you also have to build yourself up mentally and spiritually. And you can't be one. It has to be all three of them together, I think. And once you build yourself up spiritually and you start building that muscle, God starts like, all right, well, I'm going to start giving you a little voice. I'm going to start, you're talking to me and I'm going to talk back.
Yeah.
And it's not just, you're not just coming to me whenever you have problems. You're coming to me every single day. It's like, so I'm going to start, being more present in your life, and I'm going to start finding, more things for you to do and more people for you to influence.
Yeah, I think I started doing this thing now where I just, every morning, whether it's at the table eating breakfast or on my way to the gym, like I thank God for everything that I have and everything that I've been through. Because, it's weird to say, like, to thank somebody for the problems you've had in your life. Like, oh, thank you for that relationship that just completely went south, and now all this other stuff. Or, hey, thank you for that car accident. Like, yeah, it's weird, but at the end of the day, like, God knows what we're doing, and we shouldn't only just thank him for what happens good in our life, but thank him for what the bad things happen in our life, because that's what grows us as an individual and spiritually. Because, thinking back to it, there have been more than enough occasions where I probably shouldn't have walked out of a car accident. And, I literally walked out. The last car accident I flipped my car. I hit a tree, flipped my car. And I walked out of there with nothing but bruises. I was shaken up and everything, but thinking about it, like, God watched over me in that situation. Because honestly, the crash was not pretty. Like, the whole entire front side of my car, it looked like he took a saw and just cut it off. So we have to just thank God for every situation that we have, good or bad, and he'll
use it for some purpose in the future. He has a whole reason for something happening. You may not see it in the moment. It might be tough to get through in the moment, like a breakup. You know what I'm saying? You might not see it, but God sees stuff that you don't see, and he's always there for you, and he's going to use it maybe in the future to. Now you know what you don't want. Now you know where you struggled at. You know where they struggled at. You know the difference in relationships, and you know what you need now to go to the next level and to take something more seriously. And touching on something that you brought up, because I think this is really good, and I feel like the church doesn't really talk about it that much, is Tommy talked about like how you wake up and you thank God in the mornings on your way to the gym. Yeah. The church really talks about like the first thing you should do with your money is bless the church with it, or to bless someone else with it, is to give. Yeah. Right? Yeah. It's to give your 10%. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it goes deeper than that. And it's where I don't feel like a lot of people talk about it, is to give God the first of your time. Yeah. You can give God the first of your money, but if you wake up every single day and the first thing you do is like, scroll through Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is, like that, those are like your first 10 minutes of your day. You could be like praying with God and speaking with God, or reading the Bible and developing a relationship with God. And that's what I feel like a lot of people don't talk about. And that's so important. Yeah. Like, imagine you just waking up and giving somebody the first 10 minutes of your day. Yeah.
It's who you want to like choose, basically. Are you going to wake up and immediately choose the world and be like, oh, I'm going to fill myself for the first 10 minutes with the world? God can wait. He's going to be there. Mm-hmm. I'll talk to you in a little bit. Let me see what the next person had posted, or what somebody said about the post that I made. When in reality, like, everything we have is because of God. So the first thing we should be doing is being with the Lord, like just walking with him for the first 10, 30 minutes, however long you want to have. But 10 minutes a day is not that long. Even 5 minutes a day is not that long.
No.
So
it's a good place to start.
Yeah. It's who are you going to put priority over? Is it going to be yourself and the world, or is it going to be God? And I think the best thing to do is put God in, because he influences or judges everything that goes on in the world, and he has control over everything in the world. So, granted, I'm not going to spend the first 10 minutes with him now, but guess what? God is going to be like, all right, well, if you don't want to spend 10 minutes with me now, then we're going to have a conversation later on in the day. We're going to have a conversation regardless. But are you going to do it willingly, or am I going to have to
force myself in there?
Yeah. And
I
God
don't
doesn't.
think I don't think God ever really forces himself in
No.
there, but he's always waiting.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna put us in situations that make us want to come to him, and I mean, he's gonna do it regardless if you talk to him in the morning or not. But I mean, my parents, first thing they do when they wake up is, I mean, we have a morning revival that we have in our church, and that's the first thing he does. Lets the dogs out, obviously, and stuff like that, but then he sits down for 30 minutes and then just he's with the Lord. I mean, he's prays, he reads the Bible, reads some verses, and reads little excerpts about the verse and stuff like that. And I mean, somebody I want to be like, honestly.
And it's so important to have somebody like that in your life.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, then be that in somebody else's life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I think we talked about this the other day. It doesn't cost anything at all.
Yeah.
It takes 1 minute. You know, I do it on every Monday.
Mm-hmm.
I'll find somebody. I write down a couple names on Monday. I like pray about it whenever I talk to God in the morning, and I'm like, who are a couple people that need what I have?
Yeah.
You know, on social media.
Mm-hmm.
You can use social media for bad things, a lot of bad things,
100%.
or you can use social media for good things. So what I do is I find like 1 to 3 people. Sometimes it varies, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's one person or 3 people that need what I have today, and I write their names down. I just shoot them a little video message, like, hey man, I love you. I hope you have a great day. You know, thank you for who you are, what you've done. Thank you for the man that you're becoming, the man that you are.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for really influencing me. You know, like it's so easy and simple. And who do you see doing that?
Yeah.
Absolutely nobody.
Yeah.
Because there's not many people that want to really bring out the best in you. A lot of people only really think for themselves.
Yeah.
But once you start speaking life into other people, and if you look at it from like their perspective, it's like, oh my God, like how did he I had some people that are like, oh my God, like how did you know that?
Yeah.
I was spoken to somebody the other day, and I'm like, I started like crying afterwards, and it was just like, it was this weird thing. It was actually my friend Ricky, who's gonna be on the podcast in like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And just randomly, like this morning, I was at the gym. I was like, I don't know why, but I feel like I gotta pray over Ricky today. You know what I'm saying? And he like gave me I was like, God. I was like, okay, well, if he's at work, because he like delivers all the stuff for us, and I'm like, well, if he's at work, I'll pray over you. You know, and I got there and he was there. I was like, dang it, I really don't want to do this, God. A customer walked in. I was like, okay, well, if he's still here after this customer, then I'll go pray over you. You know, and something I really didn't want to do because it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I helped that customer, and Ricky was still there, and I was walking outside, and I was like, all right, I guess this is the time, you know, and I prayed over him and spoke over him, and he was literally afterwards, he was like shivering, and I was like, oh my God, like, he's like, dude, that was so good. He's like, he's like, you didn't know that? I don't know how you knew that stuff, but like, I know that was from God, because that's exactly how I'm feeling.
Yeah, it's honestly weird. I mean, you've sent me some stuff that I'm just like sitting here like, holy cow, like, I was having a bad day, and then you sent me that, and I'm just like, wow, this definitely changed my perspective on things. I mean, it's the smallest things that kind of just like get us out of our low times, and it could be something simple as a 5-second video or a 15-second video, whatever, of any, like, I mean, Travis has sent me a bunch of stuff that, and for some reason, it always happens when I'm not having a good day either.
Yeah, it's funny how it works, and I just randomly feel like Tommy needs to hear this today.
Yeah.
You know, God really puts it on my heart, so whenever, you can't be scared in the moment, you just gotta do it. You just gotta do it. It doesn't even matter if you're just waking up and you got, you know, bed hair, and, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, it's more about that. And whenever it's because I feel like I see the best in people.
Yeah.
And it's a gift and a curse, because I want people to level up and go to the next level and be their best self, but some people don't want that. It's like, you can only help the people who want to be helped.
Yeah. All you can do is just put out there. Like, I mean, I want to see people succeed. I want to see certain people succeed. Honestly, I wouldn't be a good friend if I didn't want to see them to do better than me, whether physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever. Like, I want to see them do better than me, honestly, and that's what makes a good, true friendship. But yeah, I mean,
and touching on that, I think it's funny because a lot of people in life, they want you to be better, and they want you to grow, and they want you to be the best person you could be until you're doing better than them. And then they're like, what? Are you kidding me right now? Like, what happened with me? You know, like, it's so selfish.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see people go to the top. I want to see people rise. I want to if I could do anything to influence that person to be better than me, then I did my job.
Yeah. And I mean, along the way, if they become better than you, they can teach you things along the way too, and both of y'all can sit there and build each other up for the better. I mean, you can use it as a little race. You got two runners. I mean, I used to run cross country in high school, and running's not fun.
Not at
It's
all.
really not.
I ran cross country in college, so it's definitely not fun.
Yeah, and you tend to learn. I mean, you use your teammates, but you tend to use the person in front of you as motivation to do better.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe that person's not having a good race either, and they see you pass them and be like, maybe I'll try to pass him now. And eventually you're gonna get to this level. I know I've had a few races where me and one person are just like neck and neck, and I know he thinks the same thing I do, where I want to beat him, but I want to see him do better than me because it's gonna push me. And it's one of those things. It's just like eventually somebody's gonna give up, but in the moment, it's one of those, just like the power of watching that other person try to beat you and watching them try to succeed as much as you want it. I think it's work like it.
And it's also like training with that person.
Yeah.
Like say that person's faster than you train with him every single day. We're training, and he might beat me on this one, but I'm gonna get as close as I can on the next one. I might beat him on the next one. He might be slacking on the one after that, and I could beat him again.
Yeah.
And it's based on who you train with.
Yeah.
Well, like tell a story about like Usain Bolt. Like, Usain Bolt was one of the first people to like earn gold in where he's from, right?
Jamaica, yeah.
In Jamaica, yeah. So he was one of the first people to get a gold medal, and then right after that, the people training with him, it's like they're slowly starting to beat America. They're slowly starting to beat USA. You know, because of the people. Because Usain Bolt was the first one to be a gold, and then he's like, okay, well, this guy I'm training with, he's a gold now. All the girls are starting to train with Usain Bolt now, and now all of them are getting gold. You know, it's based on if you train with a gold, you're going to be a gold. If you train with a silver, you're going to be a silver. And if you train with a bronze, and guess what? You're going to be a bronze. If you train with somebody who doesn't finish, and you're going to be right there with them. Mm-hmm. That's how life is, I feel like. And didn't I send you that SAT story the other day? I think that is so good.
Yeah.
You want me to share that?
I just heard something about that too.
So the SAT story goes, this guy's he runs a multi-million-dollar magazine company to this day, but he said in high school I was doing a lot of stuff I wasn't supposed to be doing. He's like, I'd go and I'd get high before class, and me and my friends would go drink in the parking lot, and most of the times we just leave. We wouldn't even show up for class. At this point I had like a 1.8 GPA. Junior year rolls around and my mom's just like, son, will you please just go take the SAT? And he's like, I was just thinking to myself, no, Mom, are you joking right now? Do you know who I am? Mom, I got like a 1.8 GPA. I'm not going to college. And she just like, the mom just begs and begs. He's like, will you please just go take the SAT? So he finally like settled down and was like, okay, Mom, just I'll go take it because of you. He's like, I'm going to prove to you that because of my grade, I'm going to fail and I'm never going to college, right? So he goes and he takes the SAT and he gets his score back. And his mom opens it and reads it. Top score is 1,600 and he gets like 1,590. And she's like, son, do you realize what this means? Like, you can go to any college you want to. You can go do whatever you want to do in life. And he just like sits there and like thinks. He's like, you know what, Mom? You're right. I can. Like, that just proves it right there. I just got 1,590. Like, I'm one of the smartest kids in my class. Like, a lot of people didn't get that. I was the top 1% of anyone who ever took that test.
Yeah.
And he starts going to class every single day. And he starts staying after and getting tutoring. He starts, having people in his life that, are those 1,590 people.
Yeah.
And he's able to graduate. He gets his GPA up to like a 2.8 because he's passing now with straight A's. He goes to a little small school, small college. He's passing everything, top of his classes, straight A's. He's able to transfer out and go to like Ivy League, like Harvard school. He passes there, straight A's, top of his class. After he graduates, he runs a very successful multi-million-dollar magazine company. And he said one day, his wife, he gets a letter in the mail. He said, it sat on the counter for a couple of days. Like, I didn't even read it. It was from my high school, and my wife is actually the one who opened it. Mm-hmm. And the wife opened it and read it and was like, dude, like, you need to read this. He's like, whenever I read it, it said, you didn't actually get a 1,590.
Yeah.
You were actually one of the very few people on the SAT that got your scores mixed up. Yeah. You actually got a 720. So you weren't actually the top 1% of people who took this test. You were actually in the bottom 5% of people who took this test.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, it just hit me. It's like it didn't, because he said at that point it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It didn't matter that I didn't get a 1590. I fully believed I got a 1590, and I started surrounding myself with people who were 1590 material, and I became a 1590.
Yeah.
He's like, I stopped hanging out with those people who were 720s, and and I surrounded myself with people who wanted me to get better and put into me and filled up my cup so that I could go into the next level and be someone who could pass the test and get that and run a very successful magazine company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely, God works in mysterious ways, and I mean, it's all about who you surround yourself with. Because I mean, there's a quote that says, "You are the average of the 5 people you hang around."
Mm-hmm.
So, like you were saying with the whole bronze, gold, and silver, like if you hang out with people that are bottom tier, you're gonna continue to stay bottom tier. But if you decide to be like, hey, and God will put yourself in situations that are just like that story, like, wow, like you never know your potential until you actually aim for it. And God sometimes will use certain situations to show your true potential. I mean, I never thought that I was gonna just ever be on a podcast or ever just talk about God just like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I never really thought that I was ever going to get any closer to God than what I was, because I felt like it was just too much. I didn't want to talk to him. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow, whatever type of deal. And tomorrow came and I never did it. And eventually it was one of those just like, all right, cool. These people used to be in my life. Now they're now these people. And the common goal of every single one of these people that I have has something to do with God, whether it's growing spiritually, physically, or emotionally, whatever. I mean, the YouTube videos that I watch, one of the guys, all he talks about is physical fitness and God. And another one is just how to improve as a man and stuff like that. And it's really helped me both physically and emotionally and get closer to God in the process of it all. Like, it really helps, honestly.
Based on what you talked about, I think it's funny because you're like, I didn't know how I could grow closer to God.
Yeah.
And whenever I first started my walk, I was like, I'm at the bottom already. There's nowhere I can go but up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what's funny about it, because, for years and years, like, I didn't really come from a very Christian, like, household.
Yeah.
And I think God slowly started putting people in my life that were very religious and kind of got me there.
Yeah.
Like, my youth pastor, I talk about him all the time. Like, love him to death. He's someone that I can really look up to and someone I can really try to be like and aim to be like with his relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, like, my mom is, getting into church the past few years, but it's just like, we went to church sometimes, but we didn't go, we were in and out of church a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, whenever I first started, and I'm like, I was at the very bottom of my relationship with God. It's like, it ain't nowhere to go but up.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely been at the top, and I think God just let me fall to actually experience being at the bottom, because I mean, I was adopted, and I came into a family that was family oriented, church oriented, all this other stuff, and I think the devil knew that if he didn't try to do something, and I mean, obviously he's gonna know the little quirks and the little things that are gonna get me to take the bait. And he knew it, he did it, he used it, and he was successful for a while. And I think now he's realizing that it's gonna start getting harder and harder. Just this week alone, I think I've realized I was being tempted. I mean, I was being tempted by the devil to try to get myself off the path with all this other stuff, and I caught it, luckily, and I got myself back on the path I needed to be. But God will use the devil to get you closer to himself, regardless of the situation.
I don't think that's God using the devil. It's more like the devil's slowly like trying to take over.
Yeah.
Like he develops you in that habit of doing stuff his way, doing stuff that your own way that you believe is just like he's, what I'm saying? Like you filled your cell with all these things that you like, like pills, and porn, and women, and success and money, and he just like fills up your cell with that. And you have that and you're comfortable, like you don't want to leave.
No. Yeah,
And I feel like that's probably the hardest thing to do is
Yeah.
if you're successful and you have everything you can want, why would you, at that point, it's like, why would you want a relationship with God? Why would you need a relationship with God? Because your cell's filled with all these earthly things that you love.
Yeah. And I mean, once you start gaining momentum with fame and all this other stuff, I mean, I've watched people become successful, and I've watched them slowly slip into the grasp of the world. Like, it sucks to see it happen, but I mean, I literally took myself off social media for a good while because I was watching myself slip into the whole social media hole. Oh, this person's doing better than me. Oh, a comparison, judgment, all this other stuff that God doesn't want us to do, I was doing. And I learned took like a knock to the head before I finally realized what was going on in my life. So I just took myself off social media to get away from all that, to get closer to God, and it's honestly done a lot better since that happened. So I'm glad that it happened the way that it did. And I just heard somebody say this, that if I could go back and honestly change or go through any of the stuff that I've went through, I mean, I would do it again, because that would mean I would get closer to God, and my experience can also help somebody else in the long run with the troubles that they're going through. Maybe they're going through the same thing I am, and I have the experience of, hey, this is what I did to get out, and this is how you could potentially get out of the situation.
Going through all those problems and all those tests and trials, like, that's what makes you the man you are today.
Yeah. So I wouldn't change a thing about how I grew up or what I went through, honestly. So.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I wanted to read this, maybe like kind of close it out with this. This is 2 Chronicles 16:9. The eyes of the Lord searches the whole earth in order to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. And reading that, it's just like, I want to be that person. I want to be that person that God uses for somebody else. Like, God, give me strength, give me your wisdom, your knowledge, and let me use it to bring someone else closer to you. Like, it's like that, set yourself on fire. Like, God set me on fire, you know what I'm saying? Set me on fire and let me use it to help these other people.
Yeah, it's really helpful, because I mean, I pray for what I have, and I'm thankful for everything I've been through. And I mean, I pray every morning that that the videos I make or the content that I put out isn't for me, isn't because of me, it's because of Him. And I'd rather watch somebody grow in Christ over what I've said rather than grow in personally because of what I'm doing. Like, I mean,
I'd rather someone else take what I use.
Yeah, and grow.
And grow and be better because of it than for me just to be saying it. And it for what? For my personal use? No, like what we're doing and what we're saying and the things that we put out there, I don't want them to be for me. I want them to be for other people.
Yeah, we could use social media for yourselves, which is what majority of the people are using it, or we can use social media to actually get a good point out there that'll not only help grow ourselves, but it's going to help somebody else grow that they hear. And I mean, God has a way of drawing the right people to the right things. And I mean, you start off small regardless every single time, but at the end of the day, you watch the people that walk in and out of your life, and the people that make you watch you grow and grow with you, honestly. And I think it's the best feeling.
That is the best feeling. It's like being that eagle.
Yeah.
You know, you might have to be the first eagle, but eventually you're going to find a whole flock to fly with you.
Yeah.
And whenever you do that, every single one of you are going to rise to the highest altitude you can possibly go. And some people might not be able to go as high as you. That doesn't mean you can't circle back around and go help them out. You can always go down.
Yeah.
But some people can't go up as far as you.
Yeah. Geese have a thing that, like, they fly in a V for a reason. And it's like the drafting of NASCAR. When they're flapping their wings, that air movement is making it easier for the people behind them. So once the guy in the goose in the front gets tired, he moves to the back and somebody else takes over, and they're using...
Same thing with like running, like track and cross country. Like, that's how you want to run behind somebody, so that they take all that wind draft and you're just like good to go. And a lot of people would probably see that, and if you don't know, you're like, why are they running in a straight line? And that's the whole reason for it. And then sometimes, someone's got to go to the front.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you go to the front, you might get more tired, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
man, I don't understand why there's nobody up here.
Yeah. So it's same thing with the church life. It's like we gotta get behind somebody that is gonna help us get through the situations we're at and help us get closer to God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's honestly the biggest thing you could do in life is help somebody else that's going through tough times or that want to get closer to God.
Yeah, you never know. It's like seasons. You might be in the best season of your life, and someone else might be going through the worst season of their life, and you could still relate to them.
Yeah.
You know, you can still use everything that you've been through. I think that's probably the whole summarization of this like episode is you can use the stuff you've been through and the stuff that you've unlocked your life with. You know, you got out of that cell, and you can use it to go help someone else get out of theirs.
Yeah, definitely.
You ready to pray it out? I think that was good.
Yes, sir.
All right. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for your word, God. God, I just want to say thank you for who you are. I want to say thank you for what you've done, God. Thank you for your word today, God. And I just pray that someone who's listening to my voice, that they just are able to take what we've said, God, and they're able to they're able to break out of their cell, God. They're able to figure out what they're struggling with, and God, that you give them the plan to escape. You give them the plan to escape their cell. You give them the key. You give them everything that they need in order to get out of that cell, and they don't just get out, but they're able to use what they've been gifted with, God, and their knowledge and understanding and their wisdom from escaping that cell, and they're able to turn around to the next person and go break them free, God. And if you don't know who God is and you don't have a relationship with God, I just want you to repeat after me. God, more of you and less of me. Thank you for sending Jesus to die on the cross for me. God, break me of my weaknesses. Take away my pain. Take away my trauma. God, and let what I've been through and all the pain I've been through, take it and use it in someone else. And let me use it in my future to make someone else better. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Yeah, thank y'all for listening. Hope y'all have an absolute blessed day. And yeah, I'll see you next week.